Great, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette, and I'm interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. And I'm totally excited today because I have Kirsty Thompson on the line. Kirsty, you're in Barcelona, but you're working, you either run or you work with a company, I'm not sure, we'll find out in just a second, called CoWorkAShin, which is when work meets vacation. So I'm very curious about this. I'll tell you why in a second, but this is great for remote workers. And let's start with the opening question. So what does your virtual office look like? What do you need to get your work done?
Well, I guess the most important thing is like the hardware. That's like the thing that kind of defines most of our daily lives. But for me and for CoWorkAShin, I certainly feel like I need a space that makes me feel a little bit inspired. Now, that might be a day where I get to spend it working from a gorgeous cafe somewhere. But generally speaking, it's about the countries and being able to travel. So my virtual office is roaming. At the moment, it's Barcelona. Before, it was in Bali. It's important to me to have community. It's really like easy for your virtual office to be lonely and singular. So whilst I definitely have days where I sit in bed on my laptop and have a super productive day, getting up just to drink coffee, I'd say a big part of my virtual office is having community and friends and co-workers around me from time to time to keep me motivated, keep me feeling like I'm a part of something bigger. And those are the main things, I guess.
I love that your virtual office is roaming because, to be honest, for the most part, I don't talk to a lot of people who have roaming offices. It's a lot of telecommuters, people who work from one space, or just people who work from home, or companies who work remotely. So I love this idea of the roaming virtual office. So that's going to get us right into what CoWorkAShin is, because I want to ask about why it's so important for people to have this roaming digital office. So tell us, what is CoWorkAShin?
Okay, well, first, I'll give you a little bit of a definition of another term first. So when we talk about a roaming lifestyle, a digital, a virtual office or whatever, what springs to mind is the term location independent. So what we are a part of is this location independent movement where people are able to work from wherever they want in the world. And like you just said, some people don't realize the potential of that in the sense that they work from home or they work from a co-working space, but they don't think, oh, wait a minute, if I'm just using my laptop, I could literally be anywhere in the world. So what we do at CoWorkAShin is provide retreats, we could call them, where we give people the information, the experience necessary to realize the potential of this lifestyle. So a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whether they're maybe creatives, thought leaders, there's startups, like the list is pretty much endless, freelancers. They are the kind of people that are really passionate about what they do. They don't necessarily, not everybody, everyone works differently, but they don't necessarily want to have a really defined work day where they just work for these 8 hours and then they do this, their pleasure time. So at CoWorkAShin, we believe in the fluidity of this work-life balance. I think for a long time people have thought, how horrible the thought of working when I'm on vacation. But it's actually, no, if you are passionate enough about what it is you're doing, then you want to be working on it consistently throughout your life. It is your life. It is part of who you are and part of what you do. And that's not to say never switch off the email. It's not to say that at all. It's more about understanding that you can create exactly the kind of life you want for yourself. And what does that look like? So a CoWorkAShin is traditionally we're doing 1 to 2 week trips where everything is catered for. We take you to beautiful locations. The accommodation's gorgeous. There's amazing, excellent Wi-Fi everywhere we go. But that's just the framework. What makes it special and different is that we're using the inherent qualities of a location, say a waterfall or even something as cute as a swim-up bar, to really let the lessons we're teaching during our workshops and in our activities, let them really sink deeply into you. So it's one of those kind of things that you don't necessarily realize until you're doing it in the moment. But we have, there are so many levels to our understandings, and you can go to a workshop and have somebody talk at you and none of it sinks in. We use locations and environments as the signals for true inspiration. So we have a much more defined program than a lot of other similar companies, which there are plenty of. We try and provide experts in the fields of personal development for professional growth, business, big picture strategy, vision, things like that, and also lifestyle design. So you would come on a CoWorkAShin not only to have a curated, fun, relaxing, gorgeous experience in a place you might not otherwise go on your own, but you go to learn new skills. So it's easily justifiable business expense.
I love it.
Totally, you can totally make that work. You're meeting the other people that are going to be present as well. Like, that's the exciting thing. Like I said, community is important for me. It is for most people who are location independent. They might love to travel, but you need to have people around you that understand your lifestyle, that understand what you're trying to create in your life. And you want to meet other people to collaborate with. And so as with a co-working or co-living space, the people you meet become your friends, become your colleagues, become your inspiration, and that's exactly what we're trying to cultivate with a CoWorkAShin as well. So you've got community, you've got education, and you've got all the perks of staying in some gorgeous spot somewhere in the world. We have a few different exotic locations lined up for the next 6 months or so.
I saw on the website we have, so I'll say a few of them. There's Bali, and there's Barcelona, and Thailand, Mallorca, and Costa Rica, all beautiful, all involve beaches, it sounds like.
I mean, the one we're doing in Barcelona, actually we've got two coming up, and one is a city and country event. And that is going to be different, so that won't be beach focused. The one thing that gets pointed out a little bit is, and this is my experience as well, a lot of the promotional materials you see for digital nomad lifestyles are people with a laptop on the beach. And as we all know, that's absolute rubbish. Your thighs get really hot and sweaty. You can't see the screen properly. But it sends the message, and the message is, like, you don't have to save up working 8-10 hour days for 50 weeks of the year and go on a 2-week holiday to sit on the beach. If your work is remote work, if you have a virtual office of any kind, you can live this lifestyle. So sure, you might be in a co-working space next to the beach because that makes more sense than being like with the sand and the sun and the salt messing up your laptop. But yeah.
So people are coming to these two retreats to not only learn about the strategy of starting a business, maybe is it both starting a business and learning the lifestyle?
So the actual focus for us isn't, we're not like an incubator, no. So you can come on a CoWorkAShin at any stage within the development of a location independent lifestyle, or even if you're just curious about them. We do not have a process where we vet what stage of development you're at. If you're purely intrigued in what location independent life is about, if you have some ideas that you want to sound out, if you are an established entrepreneur that maybe has been working on a project and reached a point where you're not sure that you're doing what you want to be doing anymore, you've lost your mojo, you need some inspiration, that at every stage along the way, a CoWorkAShin would be fun and of value, because essentially it's about inspiration. When you are doing the same thing every day, you get on autopilot, even if you are in a gorgeous spot somewhere on a beach. Like, oh yeah, look, another beautiful day on the beach. Like you go on autopilot. And so the whole point, again, like the word we probably overused is to shake things up, to get inspired. And so for some people, the most inspiring thing might be the people they meet. For some, it might be the beautiful, exotic location. For another, it might be the workshops that they attend and the feedback they receive. Because we have things like think tanks where you could also present your idea for a concept and get feedback from all these really valuable, skilled people that you would normally not have the opportunity to connect with. A lot of co-working spaces in Asia that I visited are very event focused. It's a lot of mingling, a lot of sharing. In Europe, I noticed a slight difference. There seems to be a lot of startup teams that are very focused on what they're doing, and events are a bit of a distraction. So there's not as much of that give and take happening. So a co-workation is one of those great opportunities that you can have to, it's a sounding board, you know, and yeah, I don't like the term networking, but it's a great opportunity to meet other people you might want to hire or work with in the future as well.
What do you see people struggling with when they're coming to you? I mean, when they're curious about location independence, what are people really having a hard time with?
Well, to start with, I'd say that a lot of people don't realize that it's a valid way of living. They struggle with the concept that it's a luxury, it's a privileged lifestyle. Now, I'm not going to argue that it is privileged, because you need to have, obviously, the ability to be virtual with your work. And not all of us are 100% able to do that. We might have to be in certain places at certain times. I certainly do. To organize these events, I need to be in that country, doing that work with connecting with people there. However, a lot of people see it as, they almost get offended, like, who do you think you are thinking that you can create a life like that for yourself? And so it's a big resistance. Also, what are their friends and family going to say? Like, what do you mean you're selling everything you own and you're going to take your laptop and go and live on? Like, are you having a crisis? What's going on?
Right. It's like you're running off to join the circus. Yeah.
So I think cultural and social, judgments, and people's judgments, their own judgments, that's one of the biggest things to get over. However, if you're already in this lifestyle, you're already a digital nomad or a freelancer or an entrepreneur, and you're trying to make it work, one of the things that can still be difficult is keeping it going, making it consistent, making it work. And what I said before about making connections with other people. So I'd say that's probably the second thing, people coming to us to kind of get an idea of who else is out there doing this. How do they make it work? You know, what kind of jobs, what kind of projects make this lifestyle something sustainable, to be honest, because you can just be a freelance graphic artist, fine, but like it can, if you're not mixing with people in your industry, there's going to be limitations and it's going to be difficult to find work. So it isn't as easy as all the blogs are saying, like, yeah, get a remote job in 10 days. No, like you need to think it through, and this is a way that we would encourage people to come along. They can meet other people living the lifestyle, see what it's like living in some of these countries as well. Like, not everybody's going to love Bali. You know, I love Bali. Everybody I know loves Bali, and it's the most gorgeous, exotic place that also has a fantastic mix of startups. Like, I've never been somewhere so thriving with a startup scene in a tiny, gorgeous little town. So it's a beautiful balance. But co-workation, you can experience a culture on a 2-week trip, and it'll give you a sense of whether or not that lifestyle would be for you.
Okay. Interesting. So what about you mentioned earlier that people struggle with being always on. I mean, because we can work from anywhere and we love what we do, what advice do you give for people that can't turn off?
Yeah. Well, look, some of the most successful people I know, I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, you can't turn off that. Is that healthy? For them it is. They do amazing work, and it is totally an individual experience. If you love it and you love going 100% all the time, that's great. If you're coming from the right place, if you're creating something because you're passionate about it, if you're working towards something you truly believe in, it's a very different thing than working a 75-hour week in an office because you're afraid to lose your job. Like, the motivation is completely different, and it's awesome. Good on you. You found something you love. But for me, like, I need to have a good amount of balance. So I construct my days where I make sure that I have time to exercise because I love being outdoors. I make sure that I have time to be alone, to eat well because that's important to me. Like, be in a country or a place where I can do both of those things. There are some countries where I can't go for a run. So you need to decide what you want your days to look like, and then come out of that. That's how I would approach it. And I don't. Sometimes work doesn't feel like work, and that's pretty awesome when that happens. It's just like, I'm just talking to people, and I'm working.
Right. That's the best. I mean, when this idea of work-life fusion, I think, is very appealing to some and not appealing to others. I think there's some that really like the 9 to 5.
Yeah, and I've had that feedback, and I completely get it. For me, it's about flexibility. I love freedom. I've always been a bit of a commitment phobe with work. I've always been a freelancer because I'm like, okay, but if I get sick of it, I know it's done in 3 months or 6 months or whatever. So for me, it's an ideal scenario because I know that I'm going to have a different view next week. I also want to have, I'll have a base in my life that, we all have different needs. Some of us need a base. Some of us are happy to be completely nomadic. It depends on the individual, but just what are your values is the first question. What do you value? And then construct your day around those values and your life around those days.
I can imagine it's hard for people when they're first starting out to figure out what it is that they like and they don't like. I mean, I can imagine you'd think like, oh, maybe I'd love all the freedom. And then once you have it, you think, oh, actually, maybe the structure was good for me. I mean, and do you see this on your retreats? People discovering this about, okay.
That's actually some of the stuff that we have workshops on, like, what is it that you want to do? Why do you want to do that? Like, really, what are your motivations? Why do you think that's a great idea? It takes practice. 2 weeks is going to give you a taste and it's going to give you an idea. But really, if you want to do this, live this lifestyle full time, it takes some dedication and some trial and error. Some people I know commit to doing 6 months of the year or a year, and then they go back to their location-specific life, because it's really personal. But it doesn't have to be either or. You can have a base 6 months of the year, and travel for 6. You can like live in your city all like permanently, but then know whenever you want that you can get up and take the computer and go on a 2-week trip and not have to worry about it affecting your work. So there is no black and white. It's just about creating freedom and flexibility in your life and creating a more healthy, human-centered attitude towards the way you live, not based on external pressures and demands and a kind of quite outdated notion on what the work day has to look like.
Yeah, indeed. I love the idea that there are now terms like location specific and location independent.
I don't know if that's like a thing.
I've heard it before. You're not the first. That's why I'm picking up on it. I think, oh, I love that when I've been talking with the robotics people, the telepresence people that have the drivable robots, they actually refer to people who are there as in the flesh, and otherwise you're in the robot. So there's all these fun terms popping up, which is really fun. So maybe we can talk about tools for a little bit. Are there tools that come up over and over that you see people using or that you love yourself that help you in this way of work?
Okay. Well, I have to admit, I'm not super techie. I love my apps for travel. That's for me, that's the biggest thing. When you travel, you want to be able to land in a completely foreign country and have a certain amount of control over your scenario. So nowadays it's so easy because from everything from Google Flights making finding a good flight easier to an app like City Mapper or Airbnb or Uber, making like you can land somewhere, already know where you're going to stay for the first night. You can already have communicated via email or Skype with somebody who you're going to stay with. You get there and there's a local app that can connect you with other maybe other people, expats or digital nomads or freelancers or whatever in Barcelona. Meetup is a really big site and that has an app. That's amazing. There are all these groups on there for whatever your interests. There are groups for you. So for me, those kind of like ease of travel apps are the best thing that I utilize. Communication, being able, again, software, being able to Skype with loved ones all over the world. And I'm simple, like this little cute little laptop, that's me. And my smartphone, like we communicate with each other as much in real life as we can, our team. We don't have any complex systems. We like to WhatsApp each other and keep it really direct. And in fact, at the moment, the team is all together in real life, and it's great. And we're getting a lot of really good work done. And when we're separate, we work differently, but it's not necessarily one is better than the other.
I love that you have the idea of just keeping it simple. Like we don't need really fancy things. The laptop and a good internet connection, and then and a few apps, and you're good to go. It's kind of an amazing world we're living in right now.
It is so easy when you think about, like, I mean, I traveled before apps, and before having a phone with me, I traveled without a phone. Now my brain is like, what? But yeah.
How did we even do that?
And you arrive in the airport, you've looked in your guide and gotten advice on how much a taxi to a hotel should cost so you don't get ripped off. You point to the map, there's a lot of trust involved, and that is something I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose connecting to other people. But if you travel frequently, it does make life amazingly fluid. Like, I got into Chiang Mai I think it was in May. I got off the airplane. There were SIM cards available before I even left the departure hall. Bought a SIM card, got straight on to I think it was my booking.com app. It brought up my hotel, and then it offered a translation written in Thai that I showed to the driver, and there we go. And I knew,
right, what more do you need?
So yeah.
I love it. So what about internet connect? Oops, sorry. What did you just say?
The founder of CoWorkAShin, Stuart, my boss, he teases me a little bit for my love of apps. He's not as enthusiastic about all those things, but yeah, it's a personal thing.
Right, it's what works for you. It sounds like that's sort of the theme of this whole lifestyle, is finding what works for you and then building around that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you mentioned, one thing I want to ask about is internet connection in all of these places. I'm assuming some places are better than others.
Absolutely, yeah.
What role does that play? Is it critical? Is it... Oops, and you're frozen now, I think. We'll wait for a second. And it'll give me a good opportunity to show off my super card saying you're frozen. So she can't see this, but other people will know that she is frozen, and we're going to wait for her to get back on the line. So working from a co-working space. And we're talking about internet connection, ironically enough. And then the internet connection goes down. So I'm doing a short interlude for people who are still watching. So my guest, Kirsty Thompson, is frozen and the connection has dropped. We're talking about CoWorkAShin, which is when work meets vacation. And we are going to wait for her to reboot. And she's back. Hello, you're back.
Hi. Okay, so that was hysterical.
I think it was perfect timing, actually. I thought, and I did a little interlude where I told people like the connection wasn't great. And so she's.
Okay, so this is a perfect example. Like, what I was going to say is one of the most important things when we were finding venues and accommodation and co-working spots for our co-workations, it was the Wi-Fi speed. You know, we take people to amazing like beach bars and all these sorts of spots, but you have the potential to work at all of them. People can choose how much they do or don't work. So for us, that's crucial. When we're working ourselves as we travel, I recently was finishing the website. You can't have a shoddy internet connection when you're uploading things to your website, and being able, it stalls your work, and it can be really, really negative to your work ethic and your productivity if you don't have that. I have lots of friends who are coaches or they give online sessions for a variety of different things, like business coaches and things like that. If you don't have a constant connection, or if it breaks all the time, you're not going to get great benefit out of those interactions. So it's hugely important. And people who are working on developing apps and software and stuff like that, they can't have something drop out. So Bali is one of the countries, Chiang Mai is another, that has recognized the importance and potential of catering to location independent professionals, and they are doing the work necessary to put the infrastructure in to make it easy. And like the fact that there are so many co-working spaces popping up all over the world speaks to that. The fact that cafes all over the world, you know, to varying degrees, are happy for you to sit in there, and they have good internet for your pleasure. It's like probably the second most important thing.
What would be the first most important thing?
Well, that's the most important thing for like productivity. But again, I think the first most important thing would be that you're enjoying your life. I know that sounds really a little bit vague, but like, why are you traveling? Why are you working from wherever you want to work? Asking those questions of yourself again. Like, if you're not clear on why you're trying to be a location independent professional, you're going to spend your days at the pool. You're going to spend your days drinking beer. You're not going to get any work done, and it's going to be a waste of time. So I think the first thing is like, do you really want to be living this lifestyle? Otherwise, just go on a holiday, you know?
Right.
Right. So yeah, that clarity for me is like the number one thing. But then practically, internet.
right. The base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of course, like that funny. So we're running out of time, but I have a couple things that I really want to ask. You mentioned trust, and that you mentioned that you had to have trust. So what do you mean by trust? Trust between whom when you're working? And then how are you building that?
Okay. Well, so one of the interesting things about the rise of like peer-to-peer services online is that I think originally people assumed that there would be less connection between others with the internet, and what we've seen is in fact more connection. Airbnb is built on trust. Uber is built on trust. We are trusting other people to come into our homes, and we are trusting to go into others. So one of the things I love when we talk about how great all the software is that these apps that we have access to, is although it's different, I'm not just like landing in some village and having to trust the person offering me a room in the street is a good person. That used to be and is still like an enjoyable experience, but we still have to trust using these apps, using this technology. and we're able to vet people. We're able to see reviews. So trust is we're trusting in different ways. We're being maybe a little bit more, I was going to say clever. No, we're being more structured in our trust. Like we research beforehand and we go, okay, this person looks trustworthy, they have good reviews. So there's that level of trust. And the same with when you meet people in a co-working space in, for instance, Bali, anybody can say, oh, I'm a graphic designer, or I'm this, that, and the other. You don't really know. You can go to their LinkedIn page, which is what you would do. You would use technology to find out a bit of information around them, but you need to trust people. So in any situation where you're thrown together with a bunch of strangers, trust comes into play. And when you travel, trust is a huge issue. You're not always in control. You have to take people's advice. You have to just like try things out and hope for the best. You have to trust that the food you're eating is good, and you use common sense and you use research, but essentially it's trust.
Yeah, so the peer-to-peer economy is really built on trust, but we also have the reviews and the checks to make sure.
Yeah. What's the term for that? Like structured trust? I don't know, like research first, then try. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. We'll have to come up with a term for it. It's like trust them, but check them too.
That's good.
So what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting out? I mean, I guess the first thing is go on a CoWorkAShin. So go to CoWorkAShin.com and go on a CoWorkAShin somewhere. But other than that, what would you tell them?
Okay, and on that note, like we are part of a rapidly growing ecosystem of companies servicing a location-independent lifestyle. We're really, really passionate about supporting each other, because the bigger this, the more that's available within the ecosystem, the more normalized this lifestyle becomes, the more people are going to be participating in it. And like, I love the idea of a global community, a true global community. I know that there's changes that occur to cultures and societies that might be resisted and aren't always super positive, but I believe there can be huge benefits to a true global community based on trust and sharing and breaking down barriers and understanding each other better and all this stuff. And technology allows us to do that. So I guess, we have on our website a list of other people holding events similar to us, but with different slants. We have lists of co-working spaces that we think are really unique. Not all of them, like we've curated these lists. We have lists of co-living spaces, resources, education, sites such as your own. And
that's how we met. That's right. Yeah. Funny.
So that for us, like I would say, do your research. If you want to check out what we have, go to CoWorkAShin.com and go to the location independence page. There's plenty of stuff on there, but there's heaps online as well. Do a bit of research and don't get convinced that this is going to be easy. Really think about what you want. If you just want a holiday, you're allowed to have a holiday. You don't have to, be intrepid. But I think most people are curious as to how they can make it work, and in which case, yes, come on a CoWorkAShin, potentially, but also just get out there, go on some trips on your own, connect with co-working or co-living spaces. And before you launch into it, trial out whatever dream work scenario it is you have in your mind. Like, there don't have to be as many barriers as you think, boundaries, as you think. You can make money in a wide variety of ways. So if you have the luxury in your life to spend a bit of time figuring out what you really want to do with yourself, how you can best contribute something special, go on a trip, take that time, figure that stuff out, and then take it from there, I would say.
Love it. Love the advice. So do your research and trial things before you just quit your day job and go off on your own.
Dream really big. There's no limit. You can create the lifestyle that you want. You really can. But you have to be practical.
Yeah, it's very smart advice. So it's not just about sitting on the beach, which is not practical when you're trying to work. But you could
They say that battery gets hot.
and the sand and and all the
And you spill your mojito on your keyboard. It's yeah.
the suffering. Cool. So final question, which is, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you and learn more? Obviously, the website, CoWorkAShin.com.
Yes, CoWorkAShin.com is the best one. Email at info@CoWorkAShin.com. Any questions, shoot it through. I'll see it. Stuart, the founder, will see it. We're a very small team, and we're really keen to just connect with people personally. So get in touch that way, and any questions will be received. There's a contact page on the website as well, and loads of resources on there. So yeah.
Great. I really look forward. I think my audience will really enjoy this kind of retreat.
And we're also on the normals. We're on Facebook and Instagram. So look for CoWorkAShin there as well.
Oh, you can see the pictures are worth 1,000 words. So that's where you really want to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the mojitos are there, folks. So
yeah, we try and balance it out. We work. And we've also got a few other groups that we're a part of, or that we've started up on Facebook to keep this conversation going. There's the Location Independent Movement page group. And then there's more specific to Barcelona Location Independent Professionals group. And these are places where, and you can see these through our main CoWorkAShin Facebook page. You can see these are our groups. You can shoot through a question on there as well, and chat to other people, like not just us, but have conversations with other people living a lifestyle.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And I'm very excited about what you guys are doing. I think it's just a fabulous thing. So I hope that lots of people get in touch.
Thank you so much, Lizette. It's been a pleasure.
Indeed. Indeed. So until next time, everybody, be powerful.